Hi everybody, Michael here from Solosaurus. Today we are going to talk about a tactical combat game with a nostalgia wrapper, and that game is Masters of the Universe Clash for Eternia. Clash for Eternia is a 1 to 5 player skirmish game, and that's pretty much it. It's basically a free for all. It's a tactical combat game. I am not really all that often into tactical combat games. My interest is more in grand, sweeping campaigns, things that change worlds and empires, that kind of a thing. So doing something with little figures on a map, it doesn't appeal, but at the same time, I still do play some games that are tactical. So single aircraft or single soldiers, that kind of a thing from the wargaming space anyway. So doing something like this is a little different for me. Not to mention that it's He-Man. He-Man is a bit before my time. I say that in terms of me being too old to play with these toys. This was very early '80s. I had a younger cousin who had the He-Man action figure, Skeletor, pretty much all the figures. He had the Castle Grayskull set too, which I admit will look really cool. And heck, I can even admit to it now; it still looks pretty cool. I love play sets like that. I love miniatures. I love that kind of a thing. So that definitely has a big appeal to me. So the nostalgia side of things with this game is very high. Even though I wasn't really into the cartoon, I wasn't into the toys. I got to ask myself, what was it about this that made me want to get it? Big shout out to Meeples and Beyond and to Mark, the owner, as well as the others over there. They are a fantastic store. They have an online shop. I will put the link in the description below if you would check them out and see what you think. They just had a huge sale on clearance games and a few other things. That was a one day only event, but they do this kind of thing sometimes. So keep an eye on them and see what they're going to do next. I honestly, I love the store. They're at FLGS. They're very close to me. I love to support them. I spend a lot of money in that store, more than I should admit, actually. But they generously provided this as well as two expansions. The first being Assault on Castle Grayskull, the other being She-Ra and the Great Rebellion. For this review, I am just going to cover this base game, Clash for Eternia. We will go into the other expansions later, I believe. I just want to get this covered and get it out there so you can find out what this game is all about. Now, I was talking about nostalgia. You got to ask yourself at one point, do things from your past hold interest to you to enough to want to engage with this? Now, when this came out originally a few years ago in GameFound for crowdfunding, I was that close to backing it. Even though I never played with the toys, I never really watched the cartoon. I mean, I did occasionally, but being a young man, cartoons, hey, why not? This was not something that was big in my life at the time. So when I saw this, I thought, well, okay, miniatures, He-Man, Skeletor, why not? Let's give it a try. But I couldn't pull the trigger. I never did. So fast forward to just a few weeks ago, Mark gave me this copy for covering for the channel, and I got to admit, I'm impressed. I will give you the TLDR right now. This is a fantastic, fun system, and I'll explain why as we go through this review. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. First, let's talk about the components. The miniatures are the obvious thing first right off the bat. You probably drew your eye right to this thing. This is Skeletor riding his creature. I don't know what the name is. Let me see here. Skeletor on Panther. There we go. Panther. That was his name. And that does look familiar. I wonder if my cousin had that one too. I don't know. It's been a while. But they're just really fantastic little miniatures. Here's He-Man on Battle Cat. Now, the wash effect that you see, this did not come with the base game. This was something I did. I did a strong tone dip on the heroic figures, and I did a dark tone dip on the evil characters. And then I did a different wash on each one. I can't remember which wash I used. I am not a painter by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the effect was pretty decent for bringing out the detail in these minis, which there's quite a bit of detail. They're pretty fantastic. I really like them. There's, let's see, there's 4 or 5 bad guys on each side. So for the bad guys, you've got Skeletor, Trapjaw, Triclops, Merman, Evelyn, and I believe there's one more. Oh, Beastman. So there's 6. Sorry. Then on the hero side, you have He-Man, of course. You have Orko, who's kind of cool. I never was much of a fan of Orko in the animated series, but he's really cool in this game. Then there's Man at Arms. There's Tila, Stratos, and Ram Man. I just happen to see Ram Man off here to the side. Here is his mini. He is pretty cool too. So there you go. There, and then there's also minions. So each side has a set of normal minions and elite minions. So they're pretty much cannon fodder. The bad guys have these little robots as their minions, and then they have these. I can't remember what these guys are called. Ah, yeah, here we go. They are called shadow beasts, and they're pretty tough. You can see all kinds of information on there. I'll get into what this information means, but we're just going to talk about components right now. The Like I said, the pieces are fantastic. The other things that are fantastic too are the dice. I absolutely love these chunky boys. They're pretty cool. They roll really well and very satisfying to throw them into a dice tower or into a dice tray, whatever you might have. The game seems to be skewed to melee combat, though. There are 3 different results on these dice. There's 3 of these swords, which indicates a melee hit, or melee hit, however you want to pronounce it. The targeting icon represents a ranged hit, and then there is a Castle Grayskull icon, which represents a success as well. I should say success, not a hit, but it is what it is in combat. Oh, I got it upside down. That represents a success as well, but it also gives you an additional bonus if you happen to roll it. So there's 3 of these, 2 of these, and 1 of these on each die, and there's quite a few dice. So the game is somewhat skewed toward doing a damage via melee combat, and of course that is a great thing for somebody like He-Man, who has a sword of power. And then you've got characters though like Trapjaw, who have a ranged attack, as you can see this icon here. That, speaking of, let's talk about those cards. These character cards are pretty nice. Sorry about the reflection. I've got the card sleeves on them because I knew I'd be playing this a lot. The design is great. The colors are great. The fonts are fantastic. I really love that they kept the old font from the toy line and from the show, and you can see everything defined pretty well here. Now, there's 2 different types of these cards. Let's look at Skeletor here. There's an AI version, and then there's a player version. So this is the AI version, this is the player version, and the way you can tell that is from the frame around the card. Also, you can flip it over and see they're different. This is the player version, this one is the AI character version, so you can tell it pretty easily. Don't make the mistake that I did, which is I originally started playing the AI side with these, not paying attention to the AI on the back there, and kind of screwed things up and didn't understand what was going on. But now it makes more sense to me now that I played it right. That took a try or two, and then I was like, oh, that makes sense, and had a lot more fun with it. But the design of the cards is great. There's also a stack of character activation cards. These are generic-ish kind of actions. Well, not kind of, they are generic-ish actions for AI characters. And then there's a strategy deck, or a strategy activation deck as well. These, which do certain things for minions and otherwise overall affect the game. Other than that, we have terrain pieces, as you can see. These are just cardboard. The game itself did come with a 3D printed terrain, and you can probably see that on some other channels. I think they look awesome, but these are just fine, and they're 2-sided. So you've got like mountain, you've got forested, there's all kinds of different stuff on these cards. So they all have different effects. These give you a little bit of elevation. These give you cover. You can still be spotted and be attacked in them, but sometimes you have to, they can block line of sight. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in the game that's pretty neat. There's also these little icons here that are, or tokens I should say, that are objectives. There are these P and C markers that are player and controller. This was another point that I wasn't really clear on starting off in the game, but it makes sense now, and I can describe to hopefully make sense to you. Then there are player cards. Let me show you those. There's just a couple of examples here. Here's one for Triclops, and here's one for Orko. These go along this track here to determine who acts in what order. Just speaking to the solo side of things, the game is pretty much geared for multiplayer play. It's not really ideal for solo play, but that said, it's perfectly soloable. If you look at this is the scenarios book. There's a rule book as well. Again, the design is awesome. The art is fantastic. The fonts are great, and it's really easy to read. Let me just bring up a sample page here. See, you've got objectives, you've got exactly what's going on, you've got the layout of the terrain, you've got an overview of all the things that are placed. So it's pretty clear and quick to play. The only thing is there's only 4 AI scenarios, and you can see AI here against these two and down here against these two. Other than that, they're all normal, quote unquote, straight up multiplayer type of play. But, and that's a big but caveat there, I have to say, this is easily soloable. I think even the 2-player or multiplayer games are easily soloed, and I've done it. It's not ideal because the AI side of things is geared to these. It's geared to use these. So what happens is, let's uh, let's move over to that and let me show you how that works. Continuing with the component side of things, we've got this initiative track board, which also measures health and artificial intelligence and AI power. And then there's also a track over here that represents the certain stages of the game and also when skills are unlocked. There's also a bunch of other minor cards that are really well designed. Then we have these power blocks. I really like that they are marbled. They're not just simple little wooden blocks. They're nice little plastic chunky things. They're called dazed tokens, so this can be an effect that happens to a character based on an attack or something like that, or some kind of effect in the game. It's all pretty clear. There's not a lot of stuff to it, but there's enough to make it rich and feel like it's bigger than it really is, and that's an important distinction, I think, to make in any board game. If it feels like you have more on the table than you actually do, that's pretty cool. So that's pretty much all the components. There's more to it though. We've got these awesome trays that are used for players. So there's, like I said, there's the player side and the controller side, which it might be confusing, but I'll explain it here in a moment. This is nice because this will hold a character card here for the player, and then skill cards will go here as they are unlocked. So you unlock a card, you get to choose which one you want, you plug it in there, then you can power it up by putting these power blocks into them here, and they all will cost certain amounts of power to activate, and it's as simple as that. I mean, once you fill up this, then you've got a pretty powerful character on your hands and a rampage to go, but you got to understand too that the AI side is pretty strong as well. Let's jump into the gameplay side. So this track here represents all of the initiative cards for the individuals in the game. The game says it's 1 to 5 players, and I really think if you think in terms of characters, you can technically, depending on the scenario, have up to 8 in the game. So you can technically have 4 on one side and 4 on the other, and they could be maybe on sides, or they could be a free for all too. The game even suggests doing that. You could have, say, He-Man and Skeletor on the same side fighting something else. I don't know what or how you want to do that, but that's neat that the game lets you do that, lets you design your own scenarios, or just do a free for all. Just set the board up, choose a couple of characters, and have at it. See what happens. That's cool. That's why I say the regular player scenarios, I think, are perfectly soloable. You can just multi-hand the game, which is what you're doing here with the AI player, unless you're just not the kind of person that wants to figure out what an AI is going to do. If you just want to be told, then those AI scenarios are going to be perfect for you. But if you don't like making choices like that for another side or flipping over and having to play another side, you might not like that. But for me, I grew up playing games like that. I soloed so many games that are not soloable. While not technically soloable, it's perfectly soloable. You can do all of this solo, no problem. You can play it multi-handed. I'm going to speak, though, to the AI side of things now. The game will, depending on the scenario, have you pick up cards that are, assigned pick up cards and assign them based on the characters that you have. In this case, we have a strategy card, we have Trapjaw, we have Triclops, and we have Skeletor. So what we would do is choose your characters, and in this case, that's kind of a debatable question as to how many you want. I've played it with 4 heroes. I didn't like it. I thought it was too much, too many different characters. Now, I was learning the game, but still it was a lot. I saw an example in the book that had these 2, He-Man and Orko, so I thought, I'm just going to do that. And I had a blast with just these characters. The way it works is you set up your initiative track here with the cards. So, but the controller player goes first, you go second as the player. That means the AI goes first. So the AI is the controller side, you are the player side. So you place your cards wherever you want. We're just going to do it like this, and I'll explain why I like doing it that way. Then we have the controller cards, which is the AI. You shuffle those up and then place them as well. Now the advantage to placing these cards depends on the little power icons. These bolts of electricity represent these power cubes. So if you are acting on this one, you have one, you get one of the cubes. If you're acting on this one, that's two, you get two of the cubes, and so on. And you assign them immediately to your character, and then you can perform actions, which there's two that you can perform in your turn. But first, in the AI side, you flip over the first card, which is what the AI player will do. In this case, it's a strategy card, as you can see here, and that means you draw one of these strategy activation cards. When you play one of these, you have to play all of the minions. So in this particular scenario that I had set up, the minions there were 8 of these little robot minions, so they all get to activate, and I believe they move 2 spaces, and then they get to attack, or they can attack, or however that ends up being. It's very simple. It's very easy to play. The only thing that you might have a heavy lift in doing, and it's not really that heavy of a lift, is having to determine best paths. So if we looked over here, for example, let's say we have He-Man here, and we had Orko here, we would have to determine, and this guy was activating, we'd have to determine who is closest. I mean, that's easy. You could see that from here. But if it's something like this, say, then it's going to be, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. He-Man's closer, so he's going to go after He-Man. That kind of thing. You're going to be doing a lot of counting like that in the game, especially if they're maybe over here on the side or in a mountain or on the other side of that, and they might have to go through, which costs an extra movement point. Little things like that you're going to have to determine before you can activate or actually move the character around. But these strategy activation cards are overall strategies that will play in the game. They almost universally mean bad things for the heroes. They can mean extra power for the characters. It can mean some universal thing that happens. Maybe the bad guys, I should say, get healed. It just depends. So, but as you can see, there's not many of these cards. There's 6 here, or 5, excuse me, 5 cards. So not a lot of variation in there, but you'll get the hang of it pretty quick, I think. But that would mean that happens, all the minions activate. Then we could go to Orko, who does his thing. He gets 2 actions, and there's a nice handy little player aid card here. I can tell you what you can do. That's attack, interact, move up to 3 spaces, or do bonus actions, which are skills, your ability, which is on your card. Let me show you Orko's here really quick. There we go. So he's got that magic bolts. He's got that ranged attack there. So let me talk about what this card looks like. This heart here is his health. Right here, magic bolts is his attack, which is, in this case, a ranged attack, because you can see the ranged icon. He gets a bonus as well, which you can do if you want. In his particular case, you get to roll 2 extra dice, but for every die you roll that has a Castle Grayskull result, you are going to take a wound. So that's rolling 6 dice, which is a pretty decent chance of rolling a Castle Grayskull. You're going to get a wound no matter what. But that's 6 attack dice, which is pretty amazing. And then you can spend 2 power. That's what these 2 icons mean here. If he has 2 power, he can split his attack dice between 2 enemies that are within his range. Likewise, He-Man. He has some pretty amazing abilities himself. His skills are off the charts, but this particular one with the Sword of Power, 3 dice he can attack if he's in melee range. He can spend 2 power and get an attack boost and roll 3 dice, and he has 10 health. He also has this indomitable trait where he can spend 2 power and, as a bonus action, heal 2 if he needs to do that. Using the Sword of Power with those 6 dice, that's an absolutely insane amount of dice, but it's so satisfying. If you like taking a whole chunk of dice and just laying them out, and that's an awesome result right there. That's 5 freaking hits right there, because they're He-Man attacking, swords, melee hit, that's a hit. The ranged attack icon is a miss when you're doing melee, and likewise if you're doing a ranged attack and you roll swords, that's a miss. If you rolled a Castle Grayskull, that's a success, but it's also gives you an extra power die. But as you saw with Orko, it could also have detrimental effects too. The minions also have a special ability in that regard here. Let me see here. So when they activate, if you roll a Castle Grayskull, you roll one additional die. So he is pretty powerful. In addition to the health here on the right, there's also this shield icon, which represents armor. So if we say had He-Man attack a minion and he rolled six, well, it'd be overpowered to do that bonus action. I wouldn't do that on a hover robot. That's kind of insane. But 5 hits on the hover robot would kill him because he only has one health. The one armor would take one of those hits away, so it'd actually only be 4 hits. But then again, that's plenty to take out a hover robot. But if we looked at another character, Triclops, for instance, I can talk. 7 health, 1 armor, as you can see right there. So if he was hit with this attack, he would take 1 damage off, and he would suffer 4 wounds. So he'd already be down pretty good. So getting close to He-Man in attack range is a very bad idea for the bad guys. You can do a lot of damage. Likewise, you have Skeletor, who has a really amazing staff. He's got 4 dice there that he can attack with melee. He's got attack bonuses as well. They're just all very, very good characters. There's, like I said, there's Tila, there's Ram Man, there's Stratos. Some of these characters I'm not familiar with. This was beyond my, again, I never got too close into it, but a lot of these characters I am kind of familiar with, and they're just pretty amazing. I love the different skills and the different abilities. It makes the game a lot of fun to play. Component wise, I should have showed you earlier what the difference is really in the characters. Here's one of the characters from the Assault on Castle Grayskull set, and here's one from the Assault on Castle Grayskull set as well. You can see the detail is pretty incredible. I really like it. The lighter character there is, as you can see, I did that dip wash. You can tell the difference there. Pretty wild. These two, the evil characters, it's not that much of a difference, but the wash does do a great effect. But I wanted to show you that and see what that looks like. This game is just simply a lot of fun to play. I enjoyed every single scenario in it. I can't wait to get the other 2 expansions to the table so I can do a review video of that and talk to you about that. But this is so much fun to do. It's incredible detail. I love the wash effect. I mean, if I say so myself, like I said, I'm not a painter, but I'm really pleased with how this stuff came out. And I got to give a shout out to Mark at Meeples and Beyond again, because he actually gave me some advice on how to do this, and I actually bought the dip and the wash from him. So big thanks for that. That's fantastic stuff. The game plays fast. It's easy to set up. It's quick to play, and putting it away is not a pain like it is for some games. You see all these counters and all these pieces. It's pretty indicative that there's a lot to it, but there's really not. And I've just enjoyed the heck out of playing it. I think I can show you a sample turn here now, so we can maybe see exactly how the game plays, or at least part of a sample turn. So in this example, we're going to say Trapjaw here, and there's a minion, and there's also Triclops here going up against He-Man. We're going to say that Trapjaw just activated. Now, the way this works is there's actually an AI rules card here as well that will tell you exactly what you need to do. We are going to do a character activation card first. So if we look here, if the character has enough power to activate their skill, and there is this enemy in range, skip if the character has already used their skill in this activation, character activates their skill. We didn't talk about power with these guys. So if we're looking at the AI deck version here of Trapjaw, his skill is Reconstruct. He would heal 2 and gain 2 power. Now, power is controlled by the AI, by this AI token here. They will get power in certain circumstances, but if the characters, if you as the player spend any power at all, meaning if I was He-Man and I had used this sort of power ability here with the 2 power attack bonus, meaning that 2 power there, that 2 power would go to the AI counter and would move it up the track. This acts as a bank for the AI side to draw from. So in this particular case, Trapjaw can use his Reconstruct and Heal 2. He is, however, at full health at 8. His health is 8, and he is right there. So he doesn't need to heal, so he's going to skip that. So what happens is if you can't do it, you keep going down. If there is an enemy in attack range, character performs 1 attack on the enemy in range with the lowest HP. Now, He-Man is the only one within range, and he's within 4 spaces of Trapjaw's attack, which is this modular arm of 3 dice ranged attack. He will do that. And I believe I believe the AI-driven characters actually will use power if they have it. In this case, there's power. He can do an attack boost. Enemies wounded by this attack become dazed. And then you can spend another one if the enemy is adjacent to Trapjaw. They suffer 3 melee attacks after this attack. So that second one we can't do because he's not in melee range, obviously, but we can do the first one. So let's spend 1 power on the track here. Whoops, we moved it too far there. Then we will see if he becomes wounded by this attack. So he gets 3 dice. We'll take these 3 here. And let me get these out of the way. We'll roll them right here on the board. And that's horrible. Well, horrible for him. Great for us. That's 3 melee attacks for his ranged attack. The ranged attack misses because he didn't get any. So that's his one. That's his one attack, his first activation. Now, according to the AI rules here, they will do twice. They will go through this card twice. So the first, again, they can't do the first one because they've already done it. Don't need to do it. The second one, again, they will perform another attack. Now, if they couldn't perform that attack, they do this last thing, moving 2 spaces towards the closest enemy, stopping if they enter an attack range. Again, that doesn't apply. We're going to do this second one here, which is attack the enemy in range. So he's going to get another chance. He's going to fire off on him again. And oh, this time he does great. He does 3 damage here. 3 successes. The Castle Grayskull counts as a success, and that actually counts as a power, I believe. That goes up 1 on the track. That's 3 hits on He-Man. He-Man does not have any armor at all, as we can see here, but he's got a 10 health, so he's pretty strong in that regard, but he's just taken 3 hits. So I've already got him on 7 here, so he's going to go down 1, 2, 3. And that's it. That's Trapjaw's turn. Then we would go to the next character, which say is He-Man. In this case, He-Man, oh man, he gets 2 actions, all just like the AI player kind of does. He will get to move, he can attack, he can do some other things. If he had a skill card that let him do something ranged, he could do that. There is a skill card that he can do with that. I believe it's Earth Tremors. It's such a powerful skill. Where is it? Oh, well, here's I Have the Power, which is a really good one. That's his red one. And I'll talk about how you get these skill cards in a moment, but he could do something like that. But right now we're playing without any skill cards, so he would have to move first and then attack. So let's just do that first. He can move up to 3 spaces. He goes 1, 2. That's his first action. Second one, he's going to attack. He doesn't have any power, but he does have the Sword of Power with 3 dice for melee attack. Let me show you that again really quick. Right there, Sword of Power 3. He doesn't have the 2 power, so he can spend to get 3 more. But you know what? Let's just say, for the sake of argument, he does. He's really mad at Trapjaw, and he has 2 power. And he's going to roll 6 dice now, which is going to be probably a bad day for Trapjaw. Oh gosh, yes, that's a bad day. So first off, we have a Castle Grayskull. So He-Man would get, sorry for bumping the camera, another power. I'm going to go ahead and plug that into his sheet there. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 hits. That's the best roll you could possibly hope for. Trapjaw only has 8 health, and I believe I have him on 8. Yeah, he's right here. So he would drop all the way to 2. Bang. He is bad. That's bad news for him. He is bad off. So there you go. That was his 2 moves, and you would then flip the next card to see who goes next, and so on and progress through the scenario. Now, one thing you got to keep in mind is if you have objectives, such as in this one, needing to get next to this and activating it in order to get it. Sometimes that could be an NPC you're trying to rescue. Sometimes it's a piece of something you're trying to grab. Sometimes there's multiple ones on the map. You got to be mindful of that, but you also have to be careful because the AI can swarm you. If, for example, I drew a strategy card, then all these minions would come up right on him, and there's quite a few of them that can just mob you, and it becomes a little bit more difficult. You got characters like He-Man, who's perfectly fine with getting up close and personal, but you have Orko, who's ranged. He can still attack if he's next to a character, but most of the enemies are melee, so that's going to be difficult. If you're ranged and your enemies are melee, you're probably going to want to stay back as far as you can to engage with them that way. You're going to want to try to keep an eye on things and make sure that you're clearing out enemies that might interfere with you. For example, let's move these guys out of the way here and just say that he's here. If these guys were all putting their attention on He-Man because he's too far away, he could move closer, maybe activate this and take it, and then that would be his two active actions because he would move to activate, or excuse me, move for his first action, then he would activate this icon for the second one, so then he's done. This could mean this guy could go after either one if we do another strategy activation. There's all kinds of stuff that goes on. So it comes like that, though. It comes really quick once you start playing the game. It's quite a bit of fun. I know I said I was going to talk about this. This is an escalation track going from 0, which the sword is covering, all the way up to 5, and there's different colors along the way. Now, each scenario is going to be different in how it defines what happens at each of those stages, but universally, when you get to a certain point, when something happens to move this sword of power, and I don't really like that because it sticks out too far. I wish there was maybe some kind of cool token or something put on there instead. I mean, I like the sword, but I don't like that is kind of like that. It's just kind of a weird design. But regardless, when you hit that first green milestone, then all the characters in the game get to choose their first card. Let me show how that works. So with He-Man, we've passed the green threshold, we've gotten to it, so he will get to choose his first green skill, which will go here. The yellow ones go here, the red ones go here. So once you cross those thresholds on that escalation track, you get to choose which one you want. So in this case, we've got throw, and we also have charge we can choose from here. I can choose throw, which is a 3 die melee attack. Push enemies wounded by this attack up to 2 spaces, and I can spend a power, which would mean that if he hits another enemy, that enemy that got hit gets another attack. So that's pretty cool. He can throw people and hit others with them too. And then there's also charge, so I can spend a power to perform a move action, and then I can perform another attack action. And then I can spend one more power as a surge. This attack can reroll any dice. So that's pretty powerful for him. I would choose, let's just say, throw. I plug it in there. Now I can start adding power cubes to here. So if I roll a Castle Grayskull result on a die, I can say add it here, or I can add it over here if I wanted to fuel these skills on his card, or fuel these, and you spend them. As I said, this is where it comes from. To power these, you don't spend these, you spend what's on here. So when we get to that point where he activates his yellow one, we could say use this deflect one, or maybe this earth shatter. This is the one I was thinking of earlier that's pretty powerful. Target one space within 2 spaces of He-Man, and this attack hits all enemies in a line between He-Man and the targeted space. So you see there's some maneuvering going on here, getting your character lined up properly. That can be a really devastating attack. Then you can start powering that up. Once you cross the red threshold, he can get Battle Cat onto the field, which is pretty cool. Or I have the power, which is still a pretty amazing thing. We'll just go with that because that's the tagline in the game. There you go. So that's how that works. The characters all have their own skill cards, green, yellow, and red. Here's Orko's. I have that set up with some power on here from my last game as well. He's really good character. I did not expect that at all. I thought, Orko, come on, man. He's just this little comic relief thing. But no, he's kind of a baddie in this game. He's pretty powerful. I like that. And again, these guys, though, are no pushovers. They're pretty powerful in and of themselves. And we also have, and on the bad guy side, as I said, we've got Beastman, we've got Evil Lyn, we have Trapjaw, as we've seen, we have Merman as well. Not really familiar with him, but there you go. On the good guy side, there's, as I said, Man-at-Arms, Stratos, Tila, Ram Man. It's just a character guild. It's crazy how many characters there are. It's, well, not crazy. I mean, this is pretty normal for a game, but I'm impressed because I'm not really familiar with all of these characters, as I said, and there's just so many of them. And if you're playing 2 players, as I do solo, that's a lot of choices. That's a lot of combinations. If that's what you're comfortable with, you can do 3, say, or 4. The thing I like about doing 2 is they get to repeat. They get to do 2 actions in a turn. If you do 4 characters, they only get to act once. But if you do 2, then they get to act more often. And you got somebody like He-Man on the field, that could be really bad for the bad guys. But then again, same if you're playing the bad guys as Skeletor, say Skeletor and Evil Lyn, they would get to act twice against the heroes. That can be pretty powerful as well. The game might feel a little lopsided in that regard because it's going to be really skewed towards you, but the AI game really balances that out with the character activation and the strategy cards. It gives the AI bonuses. You can use these in the other scenarios that are not AI. Now, the rules do not say that. I do that, and I think it works just fine. You might have to tweak it a little bit, do a little bit of house ruling, and if it gives you weird results, just make the best choice you possibly can and go with it and have fun with it. This is what this game is about, is having fun. It's quick to set up, it's easy to play, it's just enjoyable. And if you don't even have to have the nostalgia for the He-Man IP, you can have fun with this even if you're not even familiar with it. It's a great little fantasy, sword, magic, and good versus evil kind of a thing. It's a fantastic game. I've said it more often than not. My final thoughts on this game. I've said it, repeated myself numerous times here, and I apologize for that. But the game is fast. It's fun. It's not quite quirky, but it is enough quirky that it has these different skills and abilities and characters that you're playing it solo. You're going to have a lot of different games under the hood here. You're going to have so many combinations, so many different skills to choose from. Even if there's only 2 per level, you're still going to have the different combinations. Like He-Man with one skill might be a real good complement to Tila, say, for example, or Ram Man and Man at Arms, for example. There's just so many choices. It doesn't look like a lot of characters at 6 per side plus the minions, but the combinations are huge, and it makes the game so much more replayable and so much more fun. There's a few scenarios that I have a lot of fun with. There's one called Brawl on the Mountains, I believe. Let me see if I can find that one. Here we go. Mountain Brawl. This is my favorite easily. This was the one I had set up here, and you can see the 3 icons. There's one there in the middle, and one there. You're supposed to grab these things. You're supposed to KO the enemy to move the escalation track up. It's so much fun. It's quick. It's like a couple of prize fighters going at it, and it's fun to just watch it unfold. Narratively, I'm not sure that there's much of a bonus to that. It's not the greatest when it comes to narrative. It's just, like I said, it is what it is. It's just a fast little fantasy fighting game, tactical combat game, if you want to call it that. And it's fun, though. I loved it. I would play it again, and I'm going to, because I'm going to cover the 2 expansions here at a later date in another video. So for right now, Masters of the Universe, the board game Clash for Eternia. Would I give it a stamp of approval? I am very close to doing that, but I'm going to have to say no, just because this is not a solo-only game. It is built for multiplayer, and the solo aspect is tacked on, and that's not something I could give a stamp of approval for. Even if it's a fantastic solo system, which it's pretty good, I still can't give it a stamp of approval just for that reason. That is it for Clash for Eternia coverage. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope that you like this video. You would subscribe if you're not subscribed, and maybe join the Facebook group or email me at solosauruspodcast@gmail.com. Let me know if there's any games that you have your eye on that you want me to cover or do a playthrough of. I can do a playthrough of this in the future as well. I want to get through the 2 expansions, though, to see what the best combination is to really show how the game shines. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next video.